This is the poetry reading and roundtable edition of People and Their Poems, hosted by Sandy Lee Carlson.
Welcome to People and Their Poems podcast and Orenaug Mountain Publishing's monthly poetry roundtable. We're here today with a great group of people and two featured poets, one in Connecticut, Betty Lou Bowles, and the other on the other side of the globe in India, Prithvijeet Sinha. So welcome everybody to our poetry conversation. And without further ado, let's get started with our first featured poet, Betty Lou Bowles. Thanks for joining us, Betty Lou.
Favorite. It was a spontaneous poem that was, I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to try to show it to you. It was a drawing that was done by my friend, Molly T. And when I saw it, I thought, I thought the venerable oak. And so this is my poem, The Venerable Oak. I am old. Insects live in my nooks, nibbling contentedly. A squirrel family dwells within my hollows. The robins have come back again this spring, making a nest in the crook of my arm. I watch now, ancient, frayed, and filled with life. So, in 2021, I fell and now walk with a brace. The name of this poem is called When We Say Yes to Life. It is good that our life's path is hidden from us, for I believe fear would strangle us if we knew God's plan. And yet, with faith and grace, we step onto the invisible path, knowing that each step is watched over, guided by our Redeemer, the man God who has shaken our worldly ways by his coming as one of us. This is called Foster. This was written when I was in a writing class, and the teacher gave us a list of words, and go down the list and see which one pops out. So the word that popped out was foster. Foster kindness, compassion, generosity. Foster patience and mindfulness. Foster vision through eyes that cherish. Foster friendship and beauty. Foster forgiveness of myself and others. Foster love of others as well as myself. Foster a willingness to say, I don't know. Foster a willingness to open the eyes of my heart. Foster a willingness to let go of the need to be right. Foster an attitude that does not choke in my throat when I say, I'm sorry. Foster an attitude of acceptance for unchangeable events and people. Foster an attitude that opens our eyes to the day's awe. Foster the wonder of curiosity. Foster the wonder of the smell of the rain and texture of snow, the sight of the dawn breaking and the song of the birds waking. Foster the wonder of the crescent moon and the morning star. Foster gratitude for each loved one. Foster gratitude for the flowers and the birds and the bees that pollinate them. Foster gratitude for the sun and the rain and the air. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty Lou. As I was sort of following your progress through that last poem, I thought your poems are, I think, they fill me with peace and are so meditative. And I was actually taking notes while you were going as you were listing the things to foster. And then I realized, because the writing slowed me down in my thinking, we get to this place through hard work, through struggle and personal challenges, and how you get through that to this place of stunning natural beauty is really, really lovely. So thank you for your poems and for sharing Molly's artwork as well. That's one of my favorite of your poems.
Yes, it was the poem that started me thinking about a book. I have a young friend who lives in Paris, and she happened to be there when the painting was there at the library and the poem was there. And she said, I hope that someday you'll write a book. So I was grateful for that.
Oh, that's a nice story.
It's always amazing how different ways people can go. When I heard foster, I thought foster child.
Right. Yes.
You went on this whole much more loving, giving pathway. It just spread way out instead of just child.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always amazing where one word will take you. And
I love the phrase, open the eyes of my heart. Jumped out at me. And the wonder of curiosity.
Yeah.
I like how it had the rhythm of sort of the Beatitudes or of a psalm. And as you would say each thing, the fact that you're repeating the foster kind of highlighted in some ways what followed it, so that I was listening to every example, every word that you were giving. So I really enjoyed that very much.
Thank you. I can remember picking the word out in the writing class, and just following it.
Mm-hmm.
Betty Lou, just out of curiosity, in the writing class, was that the sole instruction? Choose a word that pops out to you and write about it?
Yes, she gave us a list.
Yeah.
She gave us a list, and that was the sole instruction, was pick a word and write about the word.
So it's fascinating to me where the creative mind goes with just that instruction.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. And look where you went. It's amazing.
You get on this leaf from a fallen tree, falling from a tree, and you just ride the waves of what comes to you, and it's like magic.
It's like what Sam says about the muse. You never know when she's going to tell you to go write something, and
right.
That's awesome. So I'm fascinated that what the parameters are. Sometimes lots of rules get people going. Dave and I have talked about that, and then sometimes just here's a little bit of structure. Go, So
right.
So yeah, thank you for sharing the writing process as well as your work. It's really great to have you on. Prithvijeet, you ready to roll?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So the first poem that I'm going to recite for today is titled Omens, also known as Paper Birds. I'm going to read it now. Paper birds become airborne shadows on plain walls. For half of our days, strangers and neighborhood children come and go inside the rooms with erratic heating and cold water between the tiles. With half of their thundering lifetimes, parents with bad letters of disjunction jump over unsteady work tables at the printing press. They murder 100-year-old elephants and blame it on genetics, their incredible masthead under which the world gets conquered by dangerous impulses to kill. At 12:30, the glass is half full with lemonade. A half-cut lime on another glass has been squeezed out by the afternoon's dour taste. There is a sinister power of daydreaming about criminally pulling out goat horns on a highland far away where the fair fields return. Their hands never got the guns, but marked the violence by repeating satanic verses over dead bodies of calves and bucklings. To kill, to surrender to the species, the hands tied behind them, but not with ropes or duct tape. The evening dawdles over timber floors and the last telemiles on highways. The night suits crawl with terminal sleep. Some others come with beds and bucks to the party. The morning's omens are packed in their satchels. Thank you. And progressing further, the second poem that I'm going to read is titled Gatherings. Once again, inspired by man-made ecological imbalances and how we try to control and coerce nature into, becoming the model that we want to mold. So gatherings, and this is all called, of course, from my observations on my daily walks. There have been silent gatherings of herons and falcons on the riverside's iron grills. When I least suspected it, and within the delayed blinks of 2 weeks' charged itinerary of changes, the corporation put up browning amulets of protection around uninhibited beauty. Why? Hangs in the air, full of mist, and these birds, sitting with their backs to me, fly away quickly without measured cordiality as I step on the grass. Thinking about them and approach closer, just to look at the dozens of white and brown heads, thinking about the elevated seats above the river, the lined iron bars obstructing a more limpid view of the water. There are gatherings of familiarity everywhere I look. The bold pop of red on the benches brings me here, their green linings making a home of verdure for many like me. The green weeds and hyacinths grow like liquid meadows, tousled and moving on the water. The famed red brick bridge is like a waterborne mansion without any legs, and the boats carry saturnine hands looking for the separation of fins and aquatic heads for another lunch hour spent with fish bones stuck in their throats. I will not sit on these wonderful benches. I won't jump in the river. The rings of fire have kept their vows of absence since late August. Penitence? I don't know how much of good does that word serve us. I'm only here to let my mind, my words, and my eyes become dictaphones, recording these gatherings each day. New days, making the barricades of iron grills before the fabled pathway kissing the river less of a disorder. The little we have is sacred and great. This great love for nature is what we are born to wake up to each day. Thank you. And the third poem that I'm going to read today is titled Kash. It's based on kash flowers. These are flowers that grow around water bodies, especially during monsoons. They're actually flowers, plants associated with sugarcane, plantations that take place around nondescript, water bodies during monsoons. And two names which I'm going to make a part of the poem are called Durga and Apu. And these are the name of siblings which featured in the iconic Satyajit Ray movie Song of the Road or Pather Panchali, which is a world cinema classic. So the idea for this poem came to me when I was commuting on the way to work, and there are kash flowers because I travel to the countryside, and I pass to the countryside and there's a bridge, there's a kash flower, and these imagery, if you've seen Songs of the Road, and for those of you who have not seen it, if you watch the movie, there's a pivotal moment where both siblings watch a steam engine pass through the village, and they're surrounded by kash flowers. And it's a striking image because the director took a year to shoot that particular image. He shot the movie and then shot this sequence 1 year later. And today it's considered one of the classics of world cinema. So with those inspirations, I now recite my poem. It's called Kash. Kash flowers, with the likeness to maize and wheat fields are monsoon's greatest defenders. They spread like unexpected news in the countryside, marked by the highway and automobiles swaying in the wind, becoming public broadcasters of the mechanized revolution. A locomotive runs on the rhythms of snare drums on this railway line to nowhere. The canal expands its waistline, but still smiles at the flowers. Water fills him up, and so he does not gong his breath. And the telephone wires are just there, barely a threat to the ions of energy that man and beast mold. But Apu and Durga are far from happy. The brick kilns rise behind them, their Dickensian smoke and soot and churning heat calling them as children of lighted nights into their dark hearts. They have already learned too well to look at the rash virtues of other things, food, clothes, and a tiny share of logic. The Kash blooms for them each afternoon. The trains pass them by. The telephone wires don't sizzle nor snare for them. Durga and Apu, they have known the song of the road with the rumble in their feet and heads. There's a reason they were born in the same nation. Both are siblings of autumn. Autumn stretch and snatch their better selves. They stretch and scratch at the face of life and say, Alo, light, before they go to sleep. Alo means light in Bengali language. So that's the poem. And my final and fourth poem for tonight is titled Moner Manush, which is a Bengali term which specifically relates to the philosophy of minstrels in Bengal who are known as bauls. They were wandering minstrels. They used to sing about the great philosophies of life, and Moner Manush translates to the man of the heart. Now, this is one way to counter toxic masculinity in society. And Bengali bauls and a poet laureate, Rabindranath Tagore, who was also Nobel laureate, adapted this idiom to counter, of course, the masculinities and the learned, mannerisms of the world. And it basically means being true to yourself, having the individuality and the affinity to your selfhood, which others just cannot dictate to you. And I think as poets, it's binding on us that we also follow the man or the person in our hearts. So this is Moner Manush, or the man of the heart. And it gives me great joy to actually share this vision with all of you. Moner Manush. The man of the heart was making monuments of light everywhere. The makers of blue were letting oblivion become peace, and peace was itself a many-faced god today. The sun was striding with the air, and the boatmen were leisurely rocking the water with their oars like spoons carrying melted sugar. There was gold in the water. The sunlight's arc was carried by crystal currents in the water. These golden fragments had filed their assemblages here. They were all songs of the self, becoming cities of wanderlust in this collection. Thank you.
So many great lines and images. I wanted to listen more than write down, so I only grabbed a few, but the airborne shadows and the colors in your second poem, bold bob of red and green reed, something liquid meadows. Wow. Yes. Yeah, the monuments of light. It's just spellbinding, really. And I just have to say, also never having been to India and not having read much, your poems are like a window. That's very welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, the poems are so dense. I feel like I want to go back and read them because I want to visually go through those images again because they're beautiful, and certain things really popped up when you talked about penitence, but I'm here to observe, and I thought that was very, very interesting and kind of framed that poem in a sense, that line. But I really enjoyed it. I have visited Kerala and Bangalore years ago, And
Okay.
so when you're talking, I just picture back because I remember the rice paddies, and I remember I don't remember the
Yes.
flowers in particular, but I remember what it was like to go on the backwaters, and
Absolutely.
so it really brought that back. So it was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I've never been to Kerala myself. I've traveled the length and breadth of the country, but Kerala and Kashmir are the two remaining regions that I still have to travel. So thank you so very much for putting that on my wish list.
Absolutely, you have to do that.
And Kerala is beautiful, of course. I recommend everybody to start their Indian sojourn with South India. It's so beautiful and so cultural. The kind of details that you'll see, you'll just imbibe the essence of culture.
Mhm.
So I'm really happy that you've been to the southern tip of the country.
I think I'm with Naomi. I flowed with all those images and yet didn't write a single word down. But what I did write down was the notion of spreading like unexpected news, which it was kind of this interesting introduction of a human imagery into this nature thing, because news is sort of a human thing. But it just kind of
Yes.
really illustrates how fast something can spread.
Thank you. Thank you. I try to bring as much novelty to my imagery as I can, and I try to make it relatable. And, I see this throughout my city. So these are all images I borrow from, the wealth of beauty there is in my city, both architecturally and naturally. So thank you so very much. So your words, everybody's words today become a monument to my city's beauty and wonder.
There was a line in Gathering that I really loved. It says, "The little we have is sacred and great. The leaf
Yes.
falling from the tree, and just watching that to ride down to the grass in the fall."
I think we'll all be writing a poem about a leaf, the leaf falling. And I'm imagining it drifting down the river. You've given us a prompt. Prithvijeet, it's just getting to know your poetry over time. It's just very interesting to hear a different tone in the poems where you capture our animal brothers and sisters suffering or being forced to be apart from the world that they call home. And so it's just it's a pleasure to get to hear this other aspect of your experience and your concern for all life. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dave, you want to read next? You got some?
I write a lot of haiku lately. That's sort of my thing. So they're not often something that I would read out loud because sometimes they require a little bit of the visual as well. But I had one I wanted to read. So ice cube in the grass, a clumsy man, a spilled drink, a lonely melting. Part of what I like to do is I like to be able to see how little I can write that will communicate a story that can make someone in their own way visualize what that might be. I think we all have all these different neurons that are connecting in different ways. I love hearing the various poets' ways of observing things that are different from mine. But I also like to sometimes put something out there that can maybe inspire someone to think a little bit or come up with their own story. So that was my haiku for today.
I say it all the time. Your haiku absolutely capture an entire lived experience. There's a lifetime in that poem, Thank you.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to accomplish, is to have it tell a story, sort of. I don't know if I always succeed, but that's the idea. And then there was sometimes I do something else. In this case, I wrote a haiku that when I typed it out, I worked so that it would be squared off. I wanted to communicate order. And so this haiku is: how like prayers blooms come, witch hazel, crocus, and rose, hope, grace, strength in turn. So if you're from this area of the world, we have a plant called witch hazel that blooms really in the cold of winter, really, or early spring. And then we have crocus, one of the first flowers that arise in spring. And then we have the rose, which is sort of the glory of the summer and goes on into late summer. So to me, I saw the succession of those as the succession that we often have inside of us in terms of hope, grace, and strength. So we have the hope of what's to come. We have the grace that's given to us, for example, the crocus in the spring that helps us carry us through, and then the rose, which is the glorious realization. And so those are the steps that I saw. So anyway, but when you type it out, it came out to be, you can't really see, but it's perfectly squared off. And so I work on these things for a long time to choose the right words that not only fit the meaning, but also potentially fit the shape of what I want to communicate. So,
Naomi, would you read next?
All right, but I have to preface this by saying, I guess, giving a content warning. There's been so much going on in the world that's so hard, and I have not found a way to write about it until yesterday. So this arrived. So the beginning of this poem is just a lot of really harsh images, and you're welcome to turn your volume off or, whatever, not listen if you want. It's called Fawn. Every day, the unimaginable images appear. Emaciated children clinging baby baboon-like to bodies of equally starved mothers. Ribs shine through translucent skin. Eyes round and dark above hollow cheeks, resemble cartoon aliens, not real humans. Bombed, burned cities resemble nothing I comprehend. Forests blaze, smoke hazes skies half a planet away. Floods wash away camping children, houses, and habitats. Flowers, tomatoes, and summer squash bloom way too far into fall. Every day, horrors I'm powerless to do anything about. Masked Gestapo disappear people, zip tie naked children, pack prisoners so tightly bald heads from above resemble rows of purple corn, hands tied behind backs, forced to eat face down in troughs like livestock. A girl child in gilded chains, eyes some distant place, captive on a lecherous orange man's lap. Every day the sick list lengthens, every day the brutality grows, and though my eyes grow wide, they remain dry, tears locked inside. If they flow, they might not stop. Numbness is not a choice, but an instinct. Stars offer nightly solace like distant friends. Stately, ever-changing patterns, a comforting reminder how small we are. As I behold their beacons above, a small but persistent sound, a bleating like an approaching lamb, shifts my gaze. Her eyes shine green, then gold in my headlamp's beam. Crying out to me, she steps closer. I want to gather her in my arms. I want to protect her, nurse her, hold her safe from this brutal world. Go find your mama. This is not a safe place, I say aloud, knowing in my heart, no mama, no more. Fawn crosses the road and vanishes into the night. And then I weep for this one small life, for all I cannot save.
I have a not completely formed thought, but I'm reflecting a little bit on the list that your poem captures of the latest news cycle. and Betty Lou's poem, and was kind of meditating on what there is and what things actually mean when we make the list. It's devastating, and I read a lot about how the overpopulation of the white deer is a real problem for the understory, for the environment in general. And it's like, too bad, I mean, they're the gentlest messengers from on high, and the vulnerability.
Well, and their habitat has been so encroached upon, that, and the whole balance of the ecosystem is out of balance. So their natural predators have been mostly wiped out,
Yeah. Blame the victim, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well said.
Exactly. When I was listening to your poem, I was reminded of this aging professor from central India who it turned out was just distributing pamphlets regarding, solidarity with Palestine. He was just urging people to at least write or say something about the issue, and he was heckled by students as young as 19 at his college. They were like, why are you doing this? You don't need to be political. Just come and teach. And it was from the prism of, ageism. Yeah, it was from the prism of ageism on his case. So they were telling him to shut up because he was aged and he was about to retire. And, those very pithy headlines can give you a lifetime of what the person has experienced over the years. And he cannot, and when I listened to your poem, I realized that, you could have the wherewithal to express it here in a community setting such as this one. But, by listening to your words and by listening to your articulation, we can feel that there are so many people who want to come out in support and solidarity. And of course, and I discussed this with Sandy ma'am during the author profile that she conducted regarding my book, that remember, Sandy ma'am, we were talking about her poem Quilters, and I had said to her that I cannot be the solution to the larger problems out there, but by not turning away and turning a blind eye to everything, I can do my bit. And that's what you did, and that's what we all do in this poetry platform and beyond. So thank you for the courage, because I feel it takes a lot of courage to say something in this world, because we're so conditioned to be silent all our lives.
Thank you. Yes, it did feel a little scary. I think up till now, I have one other poem that I haven't shared with this group that's specifically about, I don't think I have, about what's happening in Palestine. But as far as sort of like trying to look at the larger, mosaic of everything, I've just felt paralyzed. And I guess for me, it was like having this one small lens what allowed me to sort of unlock the emotion and make the connections. And that's the hope.
I think that what you've described is something that's very ancient and very human. And it's sort of in a reverse, kind of upside down way, the idea of the scapegoat, right? So we take all of the community's sins and we put them on this goat. It's something local and small and near us, and then we send it out into the desert. But in this case, we experience so much pain in this wide world that's in many ways foreign to us. It's distant. The suffering is in front of us all the time on TV, but there's part of it that's distant. And so we find something near to us, something local, that we can put that on, and that helps us to feel and helps us to see it in a different way. And I think that's a very ancient human instinct in some ways, and I think you've captured it in that poem. That's how I kind of read it.
That's such a great visual, Dave.
Thanks, Naomi. Ed, do you have something today?
This is called Sing, my pretty, sing. Quote, I speak my own sins. I cannot judge another. I have no tongue for it. Unquote. Arthur Miller. That was all the witch needed to hear. She was waiting no longer to seize his fear. You have no tongue for it, eh? We'll see about that. To work went the witch while heating her cauldron. Her favorite spell book she loudly did summon. No tongue for it, you say? We'll soon see about that. With the wave of her hand, the pages quickly turned, slowing only at the spell for which she yearned. No tongue for it? No tongue for it? Ah, here we are. She plucked his hair and then spread pollen on the breeze to collect his spittle by making him sneeze. A few herbs, some black sand, shredded cow tongue. Stir now, nice and hard. Zebra zest, said the witch, and toad toes. Take this goblet now, and down it goes. He sealed his mouth, she held his nose. How he swallowed, God only knows. Into the fly paper flew and stuck. All the sin spewed because of that muck. Cackled the witch. No tongue for it, eh? You were wrong about that, wouldn't you say? He knew so much about the man in the White House, confirming for the witch all she knew about that louse. Oh, yes, my big yellow canary. Don't stop until we get that sinister orange blob to pop. For 3 days and nights out came the sins, some of them so bad they came out with fins. The room became packed with all his wrongdoings, amid all his lying and comings and goings. That's enough, said the witch. I can't take any more. With spellbook in hand, upon her broom, she flew out the door. He knew not where she went on her urgent mission. 3 days hence he came through a glorious vision. He could see the pall had been lifted all over the land, and people partied in the streets, freedom again at hand. Thank you.
Ed, you're such a good cook. I don't know where you got that recipe. Thanks, Ed. Charlotte, you want to read next?
I read a children's book called African Town, which was about a slave ship that was the very last slave ship that brought slaves to this country illegally in 1860. And the book is about these slaves pretty much immediately. The Civil War happens and then they're free, but they don't have any way to get back to Africa. And this part's true. So they ultimately set up their own little town, Africa Town. And the book is about different characters that came originally and then some that were born in this country. But what I found intriguing about the book was that each character spoke in a different form of poetry. So I found out about something called a triolet and decided to challenge myself. Can I write one? And the form is 8 lines, and the first and second line are repeated in certain places, and then all the rhymes either rhyme with the first or the second line. So it's very constrained. I'm told that it's actually a French form where it's easier to find rhymes. But anyway, this is called Painted Turtle on Log. Motionless, both deeply silent and steadily alert, resisting the impulse to jump in with rash action, minding her business, seeming an introvert, motionless, both deeply silent and steadily alert, confident. She knows she's ready to quickly exert. She basks now in sun with self-satisfaction, motionless, both deeply silent and steadily alert, resisting the impulse to jump in with rash action.
That's great.
It's an interesting form.
I think I have not experimented with those types of forms, but I feel like the success of it, and you did this, is to have the line that gets repeated be of great importance, right? Or rhythm, or like there needs to, not just like, oh, this happens to be the such and such line, so it gets repeated. So
the person who does this well will that first line will change in meaning throughout the poem. And I didn't do that part as well as I might have, but I think it's worth thinking about if you ever want to try one.
For me, I think as it went on, and when you got to the end, I felt like it was also self-reflection. Like so it did transform for me from what I saw as sort of an image from nature. And then as you continued, I started to see it as there's more here. Maybe this is self-reflection too. Not that that's you, but the poet or the voice in the poem,
It was. And I got criticized for that because this is not entirely a realistic type turtle. But it did, for me, have this sense of self-reflection.
I enjoyed it, and I think turtles are probably very self-reflective. Great. Just as you guys were talking, I was thinking how the lines around the repeated line really do change the value, right? It's kind of inevitable. Yeah, that was lovely. So we've got a new form from Charlotte and a prompt from Betty Lou with the leaf falling down. So now I'm just reflecting out loud here that we've kind of given each other some new things to maybe work with or think about if we wanted to, it just kind of feeds the imagination to interact like this. So Friday, the Jewish Community Center in Sherman, Connecticut, hosted an event called the Season of the Witch, and some of the poets were accompanied by music, and I had the good fortune of being one of those poets. And I worked with a gentleman named Bernie Kaplan, who just an incredible human being. So it was not only really an exciting experience to have the musical accompaniment, but also when I went to his home and met him and we rehearsed, he was an educator, he was a teacher, and then became a school administrator. And we just had such a wonderful conversation. And it's where poetry takes us, right? All kinds of cool encounters. This was one of the poems that I read that evening. It's called Where Love is True. The crescent moon and morning star, golden in the honeyed light, softened with cool mist. Winter's side memory of autumn's warm breath. Summer's memory rolling towards time's shores. Time puts her head back on winter's pillow, her back to morning, her sight turned inward, dreaming among winter's constellations. Eternal storytellers leading her forward, cradled light, loved like a baby, held like a sacred offering to life. Take and drink, be merry, walk in this light along time's shores, feeling everything. Winter comes like deep fresh water for you. Walk beside her with one heart, where love is true. Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
The personification of time and what we're cradling together.
Cradled light, loved like a baby, held like a sacred offering to life. So much of what I write, I lost my mom in 2019 before the pandemic chased us all inside. And she was just a bright light. In fact, here's a picture of her with her Relay for Life t-shirt on from when I hosted one of those at our school. And she's on oxygen. She's in the last months of her life, but she's got this big bright smile. And I just keep that picture everywhere to remind me that I got it pretty good, because I can forget. Thank you for the opportunity to share that with you. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon and sharing your poetry and being a part of the day. It was really nice to see you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been People and Their Poems. Glad you could join us. If you'd like to know more about what we do, please visit our website at Orenaug Mountain Publishing.com. Check out our poetry anthologies and learn how you can take part in an upcoming collection. Let us help you publish your next book. Once again, this has been People and Their Poems, presented by Orenaug Mountain Publishing. Have a great day.